Move my camera over. I'm doing this in a lot of different ways. I'm going live on my Dr. Kathy page. Thank you, Norma. Happy Dissertation Day. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight. I'm Dr. Kathy Owens-Oliver, and welcome to the Teachers Lounge. I appreciate you for being here, and those of you who've been coming back every week, I really appreciate it. Please share this with teachers, educators, school principals, and any concerned parents that you know. Parents or teachers right now, because of all the online teaching that's happening at home and the homeschooling that's taking place that they didn't plan in this national classroom without walls. I'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday night for the next few weeks at 9 p.m. Eastern Time in what I call the Teachers Lounge. One of the things that we as teachers miss about our school days is not being able to get together in each other's classroom periodically throughout the day or after school or in the office or in the Teachers Lounge. We miss some of the conversations that we have with each other, the exchange of ideas, running ideas by each other, venting, sharing what's been going on with our experience. So I thought this would be an opportunity to do some of that. I'll try to make it interactive by taking questions from you at the end of this, but what I have been doing is getting feedback from the field through email and then planning these conversations and dialogues around the feedback that I'm getting. So if you would like to reach out to me, you can write to me at info@DrCathyO.com. That is info@DrCathyO, the letter O.com. You can follow me on all social media at Dr. Kathy O, and all of the live sessions for In the Teachers Lounge are posted on my YouTube page if you want to go back and watch them, or if you want to send the link to someone. For those of you who may be following me and listening in for the first time, I guess I need to let you know what my credentials are. As educators, we care about that. How much have you done? What have you accomplished to be able to advise me on how to improve teaching and learning? So I started my career at 3 years old. Everybody laughs about that, but it's the truth, because at 3 years old, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and teaching is all I ever wanted to do. In every professional learning workshop I've done nationally across the US and Canada, I've told people that I had the smartest toys because I had the whole pre-kindergarten K-12 experience teaching my stuffed animals and my pretend toys at home. But I really, really have passion for this field. It is really all I ever wanted to do. I started my career as a teaching fellow in North Carolina, best teacher education experience you could have. And then from that, I went on to be a high school English teacher in Guilford County, North Carolina. I left that work to work at the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, where I spent most of my time traveling around the country explaining to teachers why they need to get rewarded for their accomplished practice and not just look at National Board certification as another hoop to jump through. I like to think of myself as the National Director of Life After Teacher Leadership Certification, all the extra things we do to improve our school, both within and beyond our classroom. That's probably the best job I've ever had next to teaching. I also worked for Learning Forward, a national staff development company out of Dallas, Texas, and traveled around the country and Canada training teachers and principals, really fun work, and taking all of my classroom expertise and sharing it with other schools. So I have never left the classroom. I believe that it's our responsibility to lead without leaving. So I've just expanded my classroom to include adult learners. And one of the favorite things I'm doing right now is serving as adjunct faculty at a college in the Northeast and working with soon-to-be student teachers who are career changers. So I'm excited about that work, and I just wanted you to know a little bit about my background. But in any case, you can follow me on all social media, again, at Dr. Kathy O, or you can go to my website, DrCathyO.com. For those of you who were with me last week and a couple of weeks before, I hope that you have given every student a gift. Every student gets a gift. I hope you've made every student at least one day during the week feel good, feel included, feel favored by you, and then most certainly know that they are teachable. Remember, I say this all the time, it is not about what you have students doing, it's about what you have them learning, and you just want to make sure that you can articulate that and they can articulate that. And this is a good point for parents parents as well. Don't ask students what they did for the day. Ask them what they learned. So tonight, I want to talk about freedom to be and think outside the box, both for your students and for you as well as educators and for principals who are making big plans for back to school once we have a better idea of what back to school is going to look like and when it even is. If you were with me last week, I mentioned a book and several of you wrote to me asking about this book. This book is Dr. Seuss Hooray for Diffin' Doofer Day, and you want to check this book out. It is a book you could read to students, but I promise you, this is a book for educators. If you ever wanted to understand and teach differentiated instruction, individualized education, and what it means to think and teach and lead outside the box, then you want to get this book. I know it's the Dr. Seuss book, but I promise you, really broad, big thinking. I'm promoting literacy during this pandemic time. I don't think that because we have a pandemic, we have to have literary pandemonium. So always the English teacher at heart, I've been joining classrooms and reading. Last Friday, I was with Miss Coleman's classroom here in Charlotte, and I read the book, The Honest to Goodness Truth by Patricia McKissick, one of my favorite authors. You have to get this book. It can be used with several different grade levels. I could have a really good high school debate with an English or U.S. history class about how far we go sometimes with the truth, the consequences we have to pay. And I could have a really good political discussion about what the truth looks like right now on CNN and MSNBC, and we could just go on and on. One of the things I want to talk about tonight that I'm actually going to read to you comes from this book, one of my favorite authors again, Toni Morrison, and this one is called The Big Box. And I want to talk about why our students are in the box and why you as teachers and educators are in the box, school administrators are in the box, governors are in the box, and they have secretaries of education who are having to make really big decisions right now. So I want to talk about these issues, but I'm going to be reading this book to you if you want to stay on. Very deep concepts and broad themes in this book that I think have everything to do with what I want to encourage you about tonight in the Teacher's Lounge. Of course, I am a reader. Of course, I am a book connoisseur. A lot of my thinking and my philosophy toward classroom change, being a school change agent, and getting students to take the risk to really share what they think and feel, and getting teachers as leaders to take the risk to speak up and share what they think and feel is influenced by another one of my favorite authors, Bell Hooks, in Teaching to Transgress. I want to read to you something that she says because tonight the focus really is on leading, teaching, thinking, and being outside the box. And let me tell you something. If you're doing what you've always been doing in your classroom, unlike other times that we've heard this euphemism, you're not going to get the same results because the classroom has drastically changed. Your ability to control and influence the classroom has drastically changed, and classrooms without walls play by their own rules. So kudos to all of the teachers out there who I've been consistently saying are really showing up and bringing your A game to the stage. You have to continue. You have to do it every day. For states and districts that are closed for the rest of the year, you still have to bring your A game to the stage, to the screen, to the platform, whatever that is. I did hear on the news today that there are some challenges around using Zoom, and most of the people I know, millions of people are on it now. I use it all the time for several different facets of my work and outreach to the education field. So you want to pay attention to that and make sure that you're using your passwords and that you don't have any unusual suspects joining your classroom who shouldn't be there. But if you want to join me and you could get permission, I would love to be in some of your Zoom classes. Let me tell you what Bell Hooks says about teaching to transgress. Students are eager to break through barriers to knowing. They are willing to surrender to the wonder of relearning and learning ways of knowing that go against the grain. I don't know why we are so challenged by students who don't agree with everything we say and everything we teach. I just don't get that. I really pushed critical thinking and problem solving in my classroom at every level. From 8th grade, that was challenging. My 1 year teaching 8th grade. I am gifted for ninth grade and above, I promise you. But from eighth grade on through seniors on to teaching college, I was never afraid of my students to debate with me, to try to persuade and push my opinion. I was never afraid to hear what they were really thinking, even if I may not have agreed. And what is happening to our curriculum, our Common Core, our pacing guides, where everyone in the school building or in a grade level or at the same place every day with the same topic, what is happening is that we're making students robotic and we're not teaching them to think and allowing them to think outside the box. And I was one of those students who asked why, well, how do you know? And can you prove it? And what evidence do you have? I think that's what makes me a good researcher and why I pay attention to so much literary work, because I'm trying to expand my own thinking and I'm open to exploring new ideas. Don't you want that for your students? I think you want that for yourself, because you do want your school administrator to ask you what you think, and you definitely want to be ready with something to say. So just like our students need the freedom to think and feel and be and pontificate and cogitate and proliferate, we want that same thing as well as teachers, and we want our peers to engage with us that way, and our supervisors as well. So teaching thinking and thinking outside the box, the freedom to explore, the freedom to create, the freedom to do and be something different. Of all the different schools and classrooms that I've been working with during this national pandemic and this online classroom without walls, the ones that are being successful and not as burned out are not following a strict everyday lesson plan. They are engaging with their kids, asking them what they really think, challenging them on their thinking, and being willing to be challenged as well. One of my teacher friends was sharing with me her schedule throughout the day. And listen, you need a schedule. Teachers, do you hear me? Self-care is everything. You need a schedule from your family, from your students. You need your own me time. And maybe you'll have time to look at a couple of these books I mentioned, take a hot bath, drink hot tea, whatever. But in this particular environment, it's a social, emotional, psychological, physical challenge that you have not had before. So self-care is really critical to you giving your students your best and pulling out the best out of them. So you need to have your me time, and that needs to be a part of your schedule. But she was sharing with me what her schedule is, what time during the day she's teaching, what time during the day she's working with students just one-on-one teaching rather than whole class, when she's meeting with parents. And then she said to me in the late afternoon, she turns on her webinar and video conference platform to just be available. She may be grading paper, she may be folding laundry, but she's just available. And I said, for what? She said, well, in case any of my students need to talk to me or they need to ask some questions, and for those who are home by themselves. And I said, home by themselves? Wait a minute, you're teaching third grade. She said, well, some of my children, their parents are working and they're home by themselves. And I thought, they're really home by themselves. I really was aghast. And she said, yes. And so I'm just available online for them to talk, to ask me a question while they're playing or what have you. My sister has grandchildren, and she's doing a similar thing. While her grandchildren are playing in 2 different homes across the country, they're all on the Messenger app together by video, and she's just watching them. And every now and then they come to the camera and say, Mom, are you still there? Are you still there? Did you see me flip or whatever? What's your point, Dr. O? So this is my point. Engagement is not just you putting information in their heads. Engagement is you allowing them to get information out of their heads, which may not be what you like. It may not be what you expected. And sometimes it's not even what you understand. And when children are home by themselves during the day, and I can relate to that because as a student, that was my personal experience, a lot is going on in their minds. And I read books. I just got lost in books, but children are playing video games, they're watching television, but they have thoughts and ideas and feelings and concerns and big themes and concepts that's going to make them famous and noticed at some time. And it's really important that we pull that out of them. So Bell Hooks says in chapter 3 about the part about students being willing to surrender to relearning and learning and going against the grain. She says, when we as educators allow our pedagogy or teaching to be radically changed changed by our recognition of a multicultural world. All of our students are very different in the families that they come from and their backgrounds. Listen, I hope you don't think multiculturalism is just about ethnicity. We are beyond that in education, right? So culture is a way of being, and it could be very different from household to household, even if you have the same race, the same gender, the same religious beliefs, the same family values and principles. Multiculturalism and understanding and appreciating culture and a student's lived experiences go so far beyond that. And if you don't get that, they'll never have the freedom to think and be outside the box. And maybe you won't either if you're in a school that doesn't have that kind of an environment. So she says, when we as educators allow our pedagogy to be radically changed by our recognition of a multicultural world, we can give students the education they desire and deserve. We can teach in ways that transform consciousness. When's the last time something you were teaching, the way you were teaching it, transformed consciousness? I have to ask myself in the teacher's lounge, what have I said? What have I done that has transformed somebody's consciousness and made you, as a classroom teacher, show up on the platform, stage, and screen in a way you never have before? She says that this will create a climate of free expression that is the essence of true liberatory liberal arts education. When is the last time you gave your students free expression? When was it a part of your agenda or lesson plan to give students a blank canvas and to really hear, what they think and feel about a host of issues that are happening in the world right now? So check this out during your me time. Bell hooks, teaching to transgress. If bell hooks is too deep for you, this is another one of my favorites. Jonathan Colzo, Amazing Grace, The Lives of Children, and The Conscience of a Nation. We as teachers are always checking our conscience. We're always reflecting. Reflective analytical practice is just a part of what we do. I drove home every day from school almost, thinking about what I did well, what I did not so well, a student I was getting through to, a student I was not getting through to. When my own students write to me now on social media and say good things or say what they remember, that just reminds me that I was effective at that time. And teaching means nothing if you're not effective. Let me just say, there's a big difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. It's doing things right to follow every part of your 6-point, 12-point pacing guide, lesson plan, and standard course of study. But the right thing to do sometimes is to get into the students' heads, find out what makes them tick, what's going on with them. You heard me earlier say, what are their concerns, their thoughts, their feelings, their desires, their plans? I was watching the news today, listening to how many colleges may not be opening this fall. I've already heard that Harvard will be offering extended online education. Harvard students will be in a classroom without walls full time. What does that look like? So we have to really think about this impact. It was also in the news today, students who are going through real emotional challenges with not having prom and their senior week and all of these other things. What are we doing about pictures and cap and gowns? I used to teach journalism and I was the yearbook advisor, so I'm just kind of still up to speed on all of these things happening in the annual calendar. But we have to think about what these things mean for kids, for teenagers, for early adolescents, for young adolescents, for young adults. We have to think about what it means to them. And you as parents have to do something about it. One of my friends told me that her son and one of his friends plays basketball at 10 o'clock at night. And that she said to her husband, I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. And he was like, listen, they got to get out of this house. So just imagine, 17-year-old boys cooped up in the house, or anyone at any age. It's really difficult. It's difficult on you all. It hasn't been that difficult on me because I'm a homebody. Listen, I lived in Detroit where it was 3 degrees below outside. So I got used to staying in my house 4 days straight or 5 or what have you. But I just want you to think about young people and what their lives were like. College students, their freshman year, completely and totally interrupted. And now they're back at home feeling stuck. They're really feeling stuck. And let me tell you something. This is not a behavior problem. This is a psychosocial problem. This is a socio-emotional issue. And parents, you really have to address it that way. Talk to them, let them share what they really think. And that's what the whole focus of tonight is about, the freedom to be and think outside the box. You've got to be creative about how you're managing this in your home. And teachers, you have to be creative about how you are managing this classroom without walls. I shared with you one time, I have a friend right now who has a student living in her house because I don't think the parents speak English at home, and she knows that they will learn more, better, and differently if they have time around her own children. I have friends who have extended their home to college students who weren't able to go home out of the country. I have parents who are being really creative about 16th birthdays and 12, turning 12 and 13 birthdays, whatever birthday it is. I have some friends who went to visit their grandparent in the nursing home and just stood at the window and talked to them through the window. A friend of mine who's an educator just shared with me last weekend that she went to visit her father in the nursing home, and she had me in stitches laughing about how she was trying to get him to answer his phone because she was calling him so they could look through the door and talk to each other. And he was trying to understand, why do you want me to get on the phone when I'm standing here trying to talk to you? But my point is, everything we have to do to engage and stay connected in a very, very different world. So raise edgy issues, bring up controversial topics, appropriate, of course, grade level appropriate, and maturity appropriate, but raise issues that really get students' wheels turning, that really gets them thinking. I remember in 7th grade, my teacher's name was Kathy. I won't say her last name. You can tell I have a little trauma that I remember the story from 7th grade because that has been a long time. And it was an English class, and we were getting ready to read something, memorize the Gettysburg Address, something along those lines. And she said, every Black student in here ought to be glad for Abe Lincoln. I mean, you ought to just like say it out loud. I'm personally glad for Abe Lincoln. To be honest with you, as a young student, I didn't even get it. I didn't even get why I should be offended by that. It went completely and totally over my head. But one of my friends in the class was just definitely turned off and told their parents about it. And they started calling other parents that night. They called my mom, and I didn't get it. So I hadn't shared it with my mom in the concerned and passionate way that my friend had shared it with hers. And they came to the school the next day on behalf of the parents to have a conversation with the teacher about the issue that she raised. But it became a controversial debate in that classroom, and I really learned a lot. And I had an opportunity as a young child to share what I really think. So I'm pushing teachers and parents. When is the last time that you gave your child, your student, whatever age, an opportunity to really push the envelope and to think outside the box, to be and do something different? When is the last time you were really open to discussions about who they are becoming, what they want to accomplish in life, what they've been through, what their lived experiences are? When's the last time you heard a student's story? And I mean, really heard their story. When did you give them a platform, even in this online environment, to share their story, their real story? I used the I am example a few weeks ago, so go back on YouTube and watch that video. But we have to really get a good idea of what's going on with our students and what's happening in their heads. I'll take questions right after I read this book to you. This is going to be good, so don't disconnect. This is Toni Morrison. So if you're a Toni Morrison lover, then you can imagine this book is going to be juicy. And it's called The Big Box. You're adult, so I won't be showing pictures, but get this book. Order it from Amazon tonight so you can read it, debate about it, discuss it with your friends, especially educators. Discuss this with your students of all grade levels. So the book reads, Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue live in a big brown box. Are you in a box? Are you holding your students in a box? Is your marriage in a box? Is your relationship with your teenager in a box? Are your feelings about and toward God during this national pandemic in a box? Is your teaching in a box? Do you have canned lesson plans that really came from a box of something processed? What part of your life, what part of your teaching, what part of your profession, what part of your relationship with your family and with your students and with your colleagues have you or may be keeping you in a box? Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue live in a big brown box. It has carpets and curtains and beanbag chairs, and the door has 3 big locks. Oh, it's pretty inside, and the windows are wide with shutters to keep out the day. They have swings and slides and custom-made beds, and the doors open only one way. Their parents visit on Wednesday nights, and you should see the stuff they get. Pizza and Legos and bubble yum and a 4-color TV set. On Christmas Day, they got a picture of the sky and a butterfly under glass, an aquarium thing with plastic fish made so it would last. Oh, the seagulls scream and the rabbits hop and beavers chew trees when they need them. But Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue, those kids can't handle their freedom. Wonder who said that? How many times have you said that? About your children, about your students? Now, Patty used to live with a 2-way door in a little white house quite near us, but she had too much fun in school all day and made the grown-ups nervous. She talked in the library and sang in class, went 4 times to the toilet. She ran through the halls and wouldn't play with dolls, and when we pledged to the flag, she'd spoil it. She sounds like me. So the teachers who loved her had a meeting one day, maybe in the teacher's lounge, to try to find a cure. They thought and talked some more till finally they were sure. Oh, Patty, they said, you're an awfully sweet girl with a lot of potential inside you, but you have to know how far to go so the grown-up world can abide you. Now, the rules are listed on the wall, so there's no need to repeat them. We all agree, your parents and we, that you just can't handle your freedom. Patty sat still, and to avoid their eyes, she lowered her little girl head. But she heard their words, and she felt their eyes, and this is what she said. I fold my socks, and I eat my beets, and on Saturday morning I change my sheets. I lace my shoes and wash my neck, and under my nails there's not a speck. Even sparrows scream, and rabbits hop, and beavers chew trees when they need them. I don't mean to be rude, I don't want to be nice, but I'd like to hang on to my freedom. How many of your students are like Patty? Or your child? I know you are smart, and I know that you think you are doing what is best for me, but if freedom is handled just your way, then it's not my freedom or free. So they gave little Patty an understanding hug and put her in a big brown box. It has carpets and curtains and beanbag chairs, but the door has 3 big locks. Oh, it's pretty inside, and the windows are wide with shutters to keep out the day. She has swings and slides on a canopy bed, but the door only opens one way. Her parents visit on Wednesday nights, and you should see the stuff she gets. Barbie and Pepsi and Princess phone and a hi-fi stereo set. On Easter, she got brand new jeans with Nikes and Spice Girls shirts, marzipan eggs and jelly beans, and a jar of genuine dirt. Oh, parrots scream and rabbits hop and beavers chew trees when they need them. But Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue, those kids can't handle their freedom. How many times have you said that about your students, your children? Now, Mickey used to live on the 18th floor with 2 elevators to serve us, but he had too much fun in the streets all day and made the grown-ups nervous. He wrote his name on the mailbox lid and sat on the super's Honda. He hollered in the hall and played handball right where the sign said not to. So the tenants who loved him had a meeting one day to try to find a cure. They thought and talked and thought some more till finally they were sure. Oh, Mickey, they said, you're an awfully nice kid with a wonderful future before you. But you have to know how far you can go so the grown-up world can adore you. Now, the rules are listed on the elevator door, so there's no need to repeat them. We all agree, your parents and we, that you just can't handle your freedom. Mickey sat still and avoided their eyes by lowering his little boy head. But he heard their words and he felt their eyes, and this is what he said. But I comb my hair and I don't do drugs, and every day I vacuum the rugs. I feed the hamster and water the plants, and once a week I hang up my pants. If owls scream and rabbits hop and beavers chew trees when they need them, why can't I be a kid like me who doesn't have to handle his freedom? I know you are smart, and I know that you think what you're doing is what's best for me, but if freedom is handled just your way, then it's not my freedom or free. So they gave little Mickey a knowing smile and put him in a big brown box. It has carpets and curtains and beanbag chairs, but the door has 3 big locks. Oh, it's pretty inside, and the windows are wide with shutters to keep out the day. He has swings and slides and a double bunk bed, but the door only opens one way. His parents visit on Wednesday nights, just after their comedy show, with blimpies and frisbees and comic books and matchbox cars that go. For his birthday, he got a store-bought cake and an autographed basketball and a record that played exactly the sound made by a living seagull. Oh, baby seals scream and rabbits hop and beavers chew trees when they need them. But Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue, poor kids, can't handle their freedom. Now, Liza lived in a little farmhouse where only the crickets disturbed us, but she had too much fun in the fields all day and made the grown-ups nervous. She let the chickens keep their eggs, let the squirrels into the fruit trees. She took the bit from the horse's mouth and fed honey to the bees. So the neighbors who loved her had a meeting one day to try to find a cure. They thought and thought some more till finally they were sure. Oh, Liza, they said, you're a wonderful child, and we really don't want to remove you, but you have to know how far to go if you want grown-ups to approve you. Now, the rules are clear in everybody's mind, so there's no need to repeat them. We all agree, your parents and we, that you simply can't handle your freedom. Liza sat still and avoided their eyes by lowering her little girl head. But she heard their words and she felt their eyes, and this is what she said. But I've worn my braces for 3 years now and gave up peanut brittle, and I do my fractions and bottle feed the lambs that are too little. And the rabbits not hop? Won't the beavers chew trees when they need them? If you shut me up and put me away because I can't handle my freedom, I know you're smart and I know that you think you're doing what's best for me. But if freedom is handled just your way, then it's not my freedom or free. So they gave little Liza a pat on the cheek and put her in the big brown box. It has carpets and curtains and beanbag chairs, but the door has 3 big locks. Oh, it's pretty inside, and the windows are wide with shutters to keep out the day. She has swings and slides and a waterbed, but the door only opens one way. Her parents visit on Wednesday night, right after their bingo game. They bring popcorn and Cheetos and pickup sticks and dolls that are already named. For Thanksgiving, she had her own stuffed duck prepared by a restaurant cook, and a movie camera all set up with a film of a fresh running brook. Oh, the porpoises scream, and the rabbits hop, and the beavers chew trees when they need them. But Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue, who says they can't handle their freedom? So in my closing tonight, I want you to think about Patty and Mickey and Liza Sue. Which one of them is in your classroom? Which one of them lives in your house? And which one of them are you keeping in a box? The way they think, what they believe, what they value, who they are becoming. Are they people that you visit once a week as though that's your reasonable service? Or do you really know these children and students? Have you spent quality time getting to know what's in their head, what they care about, what they want to be, and what they want to do? Because I'm telling you, the curriculum and the standard course of study means nothing if it has no relevance to your student's individual life. You as an adult, as a parent, as a teacher, think of all the stuff you learned that you felt many, many times you don't need. but think of all the things you wish you could have said if someone had given you a voice, if someone had let you step up to the mic, if someone had given you an ear and said, I'm listening. So I'm challenging you tonight on two levels. One, who do you have in a box? And number two, who has you in a box? And let this time of pause all across this country and the globe be an opportunity for you to break out of the big brown box, for your children to come out of what box they're in and really share with you what they're thinking and feeling and what they would like to create and become and do and what change they want to make in the world. And you have a responsibility as a parent and as an educator, and those words are really interchangeable in my philosophy, to do whatever you can as a change agent in the life of students to help them reach those goals and meet those expectations. So again, this book is by one of my favorite authors, Toni Morrison. You know Toni Morrison is deep, and it's called The Big Box. You can order it on Amazon or what have you, but this is a great conversation starter. You can do this with your church and your ministry. You can do this with your classroom. You could do this in your house. If I were in my classroom right now, we'd be doing a whole paper about characterization, internal, external conflict, relationships, all of these kinds of things, how the media and how the world influences how people think and feel about themselves. It's so rich. It's so rich. So the focus tonight was, of course, literacy as a subtopic, but even more than that, the focus was on being and thinking outside of the box, you as an educator, and allowing that for students as well. Listen, school's closed for the rest of the year, except on your screen. So you've got to make sure it really matters and that students' lives are being changed. Join me every week, Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time here in the Teachers Lounge. Write to me at info@DrCathyO.com and tell me what you're thinking and feeling and how we can chat. I'm looking at some of what people are saying in the chat box. I'm trying to get out of my teacher. That's hilarious. Windows and mirrors, another symbolic way to look at some of the various things that we're dealing with. People are writing, challenge accepted, being thoughtful and reflective, no more boxes. Do that for yourself, do that for your students. And I want to remind teachers of what I said earlier, self-care. If you're not good to yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have your act together, if you're not an ongoing learner, you're going to be no good to students in the classroom, and they need your A game at this time. My prayer for you is that you and your family will be safe and healthy, that somehow, someday, our world will get back to normal, but that learning will never stop, that you and your students will be all that you can be. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good night.